Many years later, John, now in his 60s, completed his new building, which was far from his compound. He was glad at the news of the bishop's impending visit to their church to grant dispensation and administer mass wedding. He intended to settle at his new house with Maria, and thus satisfy the condition for wedding. But on hearing John's renewed intention to wed Maria in the church, manager hurriedly converted back to the church with the intention to scuttle the marriage. John was unstable that manager had rejoined the church. He knew her intention was not genuine. He confided in the priest, who called manager aside at the end of church service and asked about her intentions towards John's wedding with Maria. "Why these worries about my conversion back to church?" manager had queried. "I was blind, but now I can see. I was lost and now I am found," she had declared. She told the priest that everyone was supposed to be happy about her decision. The priest nodded happily when she assured him that it had nothing to do with the wedding. John's riotous mind was now at rest. Meanwhile, 2 days to Bishop's visit, Okena, his son, manager's son, drove down to the village. John was surprised because he never invited him. In fact, he was against the wedding. The next day his daughter, manager's first daughter, Ifeoma, who was married to the neighboring village, also arrived. John knew his estranged wife was up to something. But whatever mischief she was planning, the church would not allow her. She had her chances to complain. A surging crowd had gathered under a tree shade at the church's premises that evening. The bishop's court session had begun. Cases were brought forward and treated. Sanctions on erring church members were lifted. But most of them had come to find out which of John's wives the church, the bishop, would find eligible to wed John. The bishop sat in the middle with 2 adjoining chairs where couples or persons sat to tender their cases and plead for his permission to receive one sacrament or the other. He had been in the parish for days and was due to dedicate the new, magnificent church, to administer the sacrament of confirmation, and also to conduct the popular first mass wedding the next day. The priest had deliberately placed John's case last on the list. The cases had to be decided that evening before the celebration the next day. John's case was lastly called and a tumultuous uproar went round. The trio came out. The priest was surprised and angry that manager had reneged on her promise. She was a betrayal. The bishop asked for another seat because they were 3. The priest gestured reluctantly and another seat was also brought. John sat in their middle. "Who is your first wife?" the bishop asked. John turned to manager, then turned the other way to Maria and pointed at her. Most voices from the crowd roared in disagreement while John's supporters were soundly corroborative. John was emotionally talking to the bishop amidst noise, insisting that Maria was his first wife. "Your lordship," the priest had emotionally interrupted, "the canon law is silent on a man's choice of his wives for wedding." The disharmony between these 2 opposing groups raged and disturbingly became deafening as the priest was urging them to keep calm. The gaggle was about to translate into fisticuffs, prompting the bishop to postpone the case out of discretion. For him, weddings should be joyous exercises, not fights. John and Maria left dejectedly and never showed up in the church again. John was in agony for weeks, remembering how his late father warned him against remarrying manager. Satisfied that she had thwarted their wedding, manager reverted to the old religion. And in the way of notifying everyone that she was back to the traditional ways, 1 week after, manager broke into a very stylish customary dance display at final funeral proceedings of a deceased female traditionalist, to the chagrin of some callers who thought she had joined church. She wriggled her body as she glimpsed at her rich son, Okena, nicknamed Ezenia, stamping each leg thrown forward hard on the ground, and jerking her behind and rowing her hands. All this was done rhythmically as she advanced towards her son. "Ezenia, you told me not to worry about my funeral proceedings when I might have lived out my life," she bragged. "Ezenia, you told me to stay put in the traditional religion, the religion of our ancestors. You told me." Okena, who was at first surprised, rose proudly from where he sat and hailed his mother, "Manager, yes, I said so." The gathering was enraptured. It was delectable to watch such tall and elegant beauty display this artful dance, even more so when it was done with much dexterity, much flair, like manager was doing it. She turned back from her son, continued the dance display, and headed to her colleagues who excitedly called, "Manager, manager," hailing and hugging her. She settled with them. She had won.